Well, hello and welcome to Women of Color, Money and Legacy, where I talk money matters. I share strategies to empower us to become financially literate in terms of managing our money wisely, making important financial decisions, building generational wealth, and creating a lasting legacy. It is a journey of learning and growing together. I want to start by welcoming all of the new subscribers. So happy to have you part of this community. Now do me a favor and click the like button. It helps to grow the channel. And if you're new to the channel, I invite you to subscribe. Let's get started. Today, I'm going to be talking about transitioning from employee to entrepreneur. I realize that not everybody is cut out to be a business owner. Some people are perfectly content working a 9-to-5 job, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, it wasn't until the early 90s that I even considered starting a business. I had my little MBA degree and I had settled into corporate life until I was laid off from my job after the president of the company decided to move the business to New Jersey, just 6 months after I started the job. Now, I had moved back home from California not too many years before, and I wasn't about to move again. So I turned down the offer to move to New Jersey, and I was given this teeny weeny severance package, and I was set off and went packing. So for me, starting a business was pretty much a necessity, but it wasn't profitable enough to do it part-time, so it remained a side hustle here and there for the next 15 years. And after a few years, I was earning a very good salary working my 9-to-5 job, so why rock the boat, I thought. But I finally had an epiphany, that defining moment when I realized that money just wasn't the end-all be-all for me. I dreaded getting up every morning, going to work, and some of you all probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I wanted to chart a different course, and that's exactly what I did. And perhaps you pondered the idea of leaving your 9-to-5 job and striking out on your own to start a business. You might hesitate because you're afraid that you might fail, and yeah, it's a possibility, but on the flip side of that is that you might succeed beyond your wildest dreams. And having personally transitioned from employee to entrepreneur in 2008, I want to give you some pointers that helped me to successfully execute my exit strategy. And next week, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you a step-by-step business startup checklist on how to get your business legally formed and in compliance with state and federal guidelines. So let me go ahead and give you a 7-step exit strategy plan that will help you to successfully transition from employee to entrepreneur. And the number one is be sure you're making a level-headed decision. You don't want to make an emotional or abrupt decision when it comes to leaving your job. You should be prayerful and it should be well thought out. And I will advise you to seek counsel from, say, a close friend or a mentor, because this is a major life decision that could really be life-changing. And be honest about why you want to leave your job. Are you leaving because you hate your boss, or do you really want to create a profitable business that adds value to the lives of others and gives you that unlimited earning potential for you and your family? So that's number one. Be sure that you are making a level-headed decision. Number two, make sure the timing is right. And this has to do with getting all your ducks lined up and in sync. Think about your family and how this transition is going to affect their lives. Now, running a business is time consuming, I can tell you. You will work lots of hours, including the weekends. You're no longer on a 9-to-5 schedule where your work shuts down at a certain time. You will work nights and weekends. If you're single, you have more flexibility, but if you have small children or a spouse, it will affect the quality of time that you spend with your family. Also, what are the market conditions like? Now, right now, inflation is high, interest rates are increasing, we're in a soft recession, and by all indications, we're headed for a full-blown recession. How will this impact your business? You want to weigh the pros and cons and make sure that you have a plan for how you're going to cover your bases. And if the timing isn't right, don't just rush ahead anyway. Gauge the temperature of the economy. Number three, recession proof your business. You want to take measures to ensure your business can remain afloat in an economic downturn. And I kind of missed the mark on this one. I quit my job in June of 2008, having no idea that 4 months later, we'd be in a full-blown recession that was fueled by the housing collapse. I thought it would be smooth sailing. I had gotten my coaching certification and I was ready to go out and take on the world, so I thought. But that's not how it happened. And as you can imagine, in a recession, people cut back on spending. And let's face it, hiring a personal coach was not on the top of most people's list of necessary expenses. I had to shift to a plan B, which was speaking engagements at corporations and association events. Fortunately, at that time, my new book was out, and that allowed me to get coaching or speaking engagements, rather. That was in 2008. Now, more recently, the COVID-19 pandemic shut down a lot of small businesses, but a lot of businesses actually thrived during the pandemic. So when you're planning your exit strategy, think about the worst case scenario and come up with a survival plan should you have to suffer through an economic downturn. And that's number 3. And number 4 is set aside 1 year's cash reserve. Now, I know you may say 1 year, Rebecca, that could take a while. It might. But what you don't want to do is step out prematurely. Now, everybody has a different situation. If you have a spouse that can cover the bills while you build the business, then God bless you, more power to you. But if you're single, now you might not like this, but you might want to move back in with your parents for a short period of time in order to save and build up a cash reserve. Now, don't complain about your age and what your friends will say, I'm too old. It's only temporary. A couple of years is just a drop in the bucket for an opportunity that is going to expand your earning power and create generational wealth. So number 4 is to set aside 1 year in cash reserve. Number 5, work the business part-time before going full-time. Before you quit your job, you want to evolve into the transition rather than just quitting your job cold turkey and starting the business full-time. Start earning some money as an entrepreneur part-time while you're still working that job. And that way you can build up a clientele or a customer base beforehand and then expand upon it once you have more time to devote to the business full-time. Let's say that you want to start a business as a massage therapy. Get your certification out of the way and set up evening and weekend appointments to begin growing your clientele. And you want your transition to be as smooth as possible. Purchase all of your business necessities before you leave your job so that you don't have to tap into your cash reserve right off the bat. You want your cash reserve to be more for emergency situations. So work that part-time business before launching out. And number 6 is leave your job on good terms. I don't care how much you hate your boss, your co-workers, and rude customers. Do not burn your bridges on your way out the door. You never know who or how they might be of benefit to you in the future. Plus, it's just bad business. Now, some of you might remember the story about Steven Slater. This was back in 2010. And Slater was a flight attendant at JetBlue. And he had an altercation with a passenger who he asked to remain seated until the plane arrived at the terminal. Now, the passenger refused to wait until the plane stopped to retrieve his baggage from the overhead bin. And Slater got hit in the head when the overhead bin shut. And Slater got upset. He went on to the PA system and he went on a rant. He cussed the customer out, the passenger out, opened the emergency exit chute and slid out onto the tarmac with 2 bottles of beer in his hand. You can't make this stuff up. Now, he became a media sensation. Working class people everywhere held him up as an American folk hero. Now, he got his 15 minutes of fame, but it didn't last long. According to reports, after being fired by JetBlue, he later worked at Chipotle restaurant and SeaWorld in San Diego. And in 2018, he moved to Tijuana, Mexico, and would commute to his job at SeaWorld in San Diego. And for all we know, he could be doing what he loves. But this should definitely not be the model that you emulate to leave your job. Just saying. Give your employer at least 2 weeks notice. Now, I actually gave mine 9-month notice, believe it or not. I told my boss I was planning to leave in June of next year. I performed my job as usual while I saved my money, wrote my book manuscript and obtained my coaching certificate. And as the time drew near for me to leave, my boss asked me again, "You sure you want to do this? You can change your mind and stay if you want to." And I said no. Now, they never hired anyone to replace me while I was still there, but they probably had someone waiting in the wings shortly after my departure, like the following Monday. But I left on good terms and still in contact with many of my co-workers on social media. So don't leave your job on bad terms. Number 7, face your fear and do it anyway. There are times in life when you just have to stop talking and praying about something and step out in spite of your fears, your doubts, and your feelings. Your mind might be saying, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? Now, it was Benjamin Franklin who wrote in one of his letters, "Death and taxes are the only things that you can be sure of." Now, there are calculated risks and then there are foolish risks. A calculated risk is a carefully considered decision that involves a fair amount of research. Now, it could potentially expose you to some personal or financial risk, but you've considered it from various angles. A foolish risk is going into the situation blindly and don't know what's actually waiting for you on the other side. You're essentially rolling the dice or gambling. So make sure you're taking a calculated risk. Now, it's only natural to have some fears when you're making a major life transition. And with each level that you step up, you're going to be met with fear. You just have to do it afraid. The fear will eventually subside until the next challenge. It's just a cycle of life when we stretch ourselves out of our comfort zone. So there you have it, a 7-step exit strategy for transitioning from employee to entrepreneur. Now, some of these steps are easier said than done because there's no way to predict the future. But these are things that you want to consider in planning your exit strategy. And I've been there and I've launched out on faith. And there were times during that 9-month period before I actually quit my job, and even during the early periods after I had quit my job, that I questioned if I had made the right decision. Now, I had no desire to go back to that job, but I sure didn't foresee a severe recession 4 months down the road. I had to come up with a plan A, B, and C to overcome those obstacles. And you have to just prepare the best that you can and put yourself in the best position to succeed. Now, I encourage anybody and everybody to start a business on the side while still working your 9-to-5 job, even if it's just for the purpose of using the deductions to lower your tax liability. That will save you some money right there. And start doing what you enjoy and what you're good at. Now, you can turn a simple idea into a $1 million business, whether it's clothing, food, health, beauty, you name it. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine got a patent for a fitness pad by adding her own little twist to it. She's serious about working out, so it was just the perfect adventure for her, okay? And that's going to wrap up for today's video. And as I mentioned at the beginning, next week, I'll be sharing a business startup checklist on how to get your business legally formed and in compliance with state and federal guidelines. I hope this information has been of value to you. And don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And click on that notification bell and receive an alert each time I upload a new video. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.